start, but I know a lot of you guys were here last year, and since you're back-to-back champions, you're here again this year. But for those of you who weren't, we're going to open our meeting like every other meeting that we do. So we got to go through some housekeeping matters. Won't take very long, just a few minutes. And then the first order of business today, we're going to address why you guys are all here. So if you're patient with us for about 5 minutes while we start the meeting, we're going to get right to you. As soon as we're done with you guys, I'm going to call a brief recess. We're going to come out, Peter and I, class of
2000.
and I'm class of 89, 1989. We're going to come out, take a couple of pictures with you guys right here, and then all you guys are going to go out into the hallway. So we're going to get started here in about 2 minutes.
Traditional awkward silence.
Traditional awkward silence.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I wanted to keep driving around just so he could tell me more stuff because it was like so interesting.
Yeah, it was simple keys. Body was never found.
Right.
That guy was the
Yeah, he was. Like that's why it's so disturbing in the documentary because they reenact his behavior, and it's just so wrong.
He goes out and buys coffee down in
Random.
what was he at?
That is random.
Venezuela probably. 'Cause it's
Venezuela.
close, yeah.
Never called me before.
And the surveillance.
Why would she call at all? I don't even have her number.
Didn't even know I had her number on my phone.
I don't think I have her number.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. Yeah, he put on a little act.
She's fine.
Oh, yeah, they've been talking about that for months.
I got more than most.
Right.
She can be
She
a little assertive,
has a driver's license or something.
positive and negative.
Okay, everybody, good evening. Today is Wednesday, March 8th. The time is 6:30 p.m. I am now calling this meeting of the Macomb Township Board of Trustees to order, and we will say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Posey, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Trustee Kuzmano?
Here.
Trustee Lucido?
Here.
Trustee Oliver is absent. Trustee Nevers?
Present.
Treasurer Drollet?
Here.
Clerk Posey here. Supervisor Viviano?
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I have a proposed add-on, which would be 8A, a presentation honoring the 2023 Macomb Township members of the 2022 De La Salle High School Football Championship team, which would then make number 8, 8B. And another amendment would be to item number 12, to amend the dollar amount to read $28,739.
So Chair,
you.
move to adopt the agenda with the suggested amendments.
Support.
Any discussion on the agenda? Motion by Drollet, supported by Trustee Lucido to approve the agenda as corrected. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to approval of the bills. Is there a motion to approve the bill run?
Motion to approve?
Support.
Is there any discussion on the bill run? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Nevers to approve the bills. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 4, approval of the previous meeting's minutes from February 22nd, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support?
Is there any discussion? Motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to approve the previous meeting's minutes. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to our first public comment. This will be for agenda items only. If you have a comment on an agenda item, please approach the microphone. Anybody remotely, please digitally raise your hand. For agenda items. Is this for an agenda item, or is this for a non-agenda item? Which one?
It's about the
I'm Merlene Thompson. I'm at 21133 25 Mile Road. And the agenda item would be number 8. And I'm just making a couple of suggestions. If the owners are continuing to work their land along the river, for example, farming, gardening, irrigating, that type of things for their property, two things I think should be clarified to them before they agree or disagree to the selling. First of all, do the owners lose access to the river? Because owners do fish, they irrigate from it. Some even do canoeing on it, their families do. So would they lose this access if they sold it? And also, how much land along the river will be used up for this future bike path that will be eventually built? I feel the owners should be made aware of these things so there are no surprises before they say yes or no. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment tonight? Please approach the microphone. Give us your name and address for the record and which agenda item you're addressing.
My name is Jim Van Steenkesty, 55605 Card Road. I'm addressing item number 8 also. I farm at 25 and Card. We've got over 100 acres there. We irrigate, we farm. It wouldn't be very detrimental to see something like that come through our property because the river runs through our property. So therefore, we're driving everywhere along there. We farm that land. We could not afford to really let that land go and not have the use of it for our crops. Plus irrigation, you know, you have your irrigation pipe coming out of the river, a path. How are people going to cross this pipe, this large pipe laying across the path? A pathway through there is, when you sign your property rights away, you lose your property rights. You're going to sign that away for sale. It just would not be a very good idea, and there is someone on the board that can very much explain that to you. He's in the same business I am, and it does not seem to be a very great idea for the farmers, at least in this northeast corner of the township. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Name's Larry D. Cook, 49488 Card Road. I run a greenhouse nursery operation. The north branch runs through my property. We lose access to irrigation water on that, from that back end of my property. Then what I'm really concerned about is liability and access to my property from the public. When Christianberry and River Woods subdivision were constructed, I had to construct a fence, 6-foot cyclone fence of my own, over $20,000, to keep my people in, my animals, and to protect the integrity of my property line. We have thousands of dollars worth of nursery stock out in the field. There's 3 stub streets butting up to my property. It would be a nightmare trying to keep people out from vandalizing, stealing my stock at night. We got people coming in at night anyway, even with the fence. Kids walking in off the street, running through my greenhouses at night, we found. So, and then you're going to have a pathway in the back of my property so that they have access to all my livelihood. I can't see how that can be a viable option for us. You know, if you value agriculture in Macomb Township, this is not the way to do it. You're going to make an impediment to agriculture and every operation along that North Branch River right away that you want to take. So, just so you'll be aware of that. And was there ever an agricultural impact study proposed to see exactly what the costs to the operations along that river right away would be?
We'll address some of those things when we get to that agenda
Okay,
item.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for comments. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone remotely? No. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
Mr. Chair, I move the consent agenda in its entirety.
Support.
Any discussion on the consent items? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido to approve the consent agenda. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to item 8A. Tonight before us is a resolution honoring the Macomb Township members of the 2022 De La Salle Pilots champion football team. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Support.
But before we actually read the resolution, I'm going to say how proud we are, both as a board and as for myself and for Trustee Lucido as alumni, to have so many of our residents who are part of that championship team and coaches. And I know, speaking for myself, I have family that's one of your teammates, Christopher Pagano, who is my cousin's son, and it was very exciting to get you guys here tonight, and it was just a thrill to be able to watch you win a second straight state championship. And with that, I'm going to ask Clerk Posey to read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At a regular scheduled meeting of the Macomb Township Board of Trustees, Macomb County, State of Michigan, held on March 8th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m., the following preamble and resolution were offered. Whereas, De La Salle High School, based in Warren, Michigan, fields a football team known as the Pilots. And whereas, the De La Salle Pilots completed the 2022 football season with a record of 13-1, paving their way into the State of Michigan Division II football playoffs. And whereas, the De La Salle Pilots captured their second consecutive State of Michigan Division II football championship by defeating Forest Hill Central by a score of 52-13 on November 25th, 2022. And whereas a championship football season in an extremely competitive division can only be achieved through extraordinary teamwork, superior strategy, disciplined preparation, and exceptional physical execution. And whereas the following members of the De La Salle Pilot football team and coaches are citizens of Macomb Township.
The student athletes are Colin DeHunt, Brady Drogosh, Dalton Drogosh, Adam Geis, Jacob Gerbino, Austin Gerling, Jacob Huffman, Joseph Maizano, Mason Moragan, Griffin Phillips, Anthony Presnell, Joshua Rotoli, Ryan Rotoli, Shane Speck, Sharon Sutton, Maxwell Theramis, Peter Toko, Terrace Turner, Aaron White, Brian White, and Javon Williams. And the coaches that live in Macomb Township from that team are James Light, Kalani Moragan, and Sharon Sutton. And with that, Clerk Posey, will you call the roll?
Look, I have to finish the bit.
Oh, please finish, and then call the roll.
And that by these presents, the Macomb Township Board of Trustees recognizes the exemplary achievements of the entire De La Salle football program, and specifically recognizes those pilots who are also members of the Macomb Township community. Now therefore be it resolved, the Macomb Township Board of Trustees, acting as the elected body representing all the residents of Macomb Township, publicly congratulates the De La Salle pilots living in Macomb Township and the entire De La Salle football program.
Clerk Posey, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Lucido?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Trustee Kuzimano?
Yes.
Treasurer Drollet?
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes, and Supervisor Viviano.
Yes, that resolution is adopted. Congratulations, gentlemen. So with that, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess. All right, Anne Marie, are we recording again? Okay. Okay, we are going to resume closed session. Do I need to take the time?
Sure.
6:46 p.m. Took my glasses off. All right, the next item up for business is our first of our 2 public hearings. Before I open this public hearing, I'm going to address a couple of the concerns of the residents. Mrs. Thompson, you are 100% correct. All of those things are explained in great detail with anybody that has reached out to us. Sorry, let me talk into the microphone. Anybody that has reached out to us in response to our letter, all of the things you brought up are explained in great detail. And all of the things you said are true. If someone were to go through with this, they would, in fact, lose access to their property. That being said, there is no intention on the township to make anybody do anything they don't want to do. We are not taking anybody's property. We're not forcing anybody to sell. This is an opportunity that came to us through the county. We feel it's something worth pursuing for those who want to take advantage of it. There is no intention to build a path anytime soon. We recognize that this effort to create preserved space, the entire stretch of the North Branch of the Clinton River, could take much longer than any of us are going to be sitting in these chairs. But we're starting that process now. So that could be 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. We don't really know. But it is a very low-pressure offer. No one has to do anything they don't want to do. So anybody who has questions about it, Deputy Supervisor Claycombe's office can be reached. She's there in the back of the room. Wave, Jody. And she can explain all the details to anybody who's interested in knowing more about it. So with that being said, I'm going to open the first public hearing. This is to consider a 2023 Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for the purposes of purchasing property along the north branch of the Clinton River. I'm going to open the public hearing, and the time is 6:48 p.m. Anyone who wishes to make comment on this specific agenda item can approach the microphone or digitally raise your hand if you're participating remotely. I do not see anybody present who wishes to make further comment. Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing on that item, and the time is again 6:48 p.m. That'll take us to our second public hearing. This is to consider a 2023 Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for the purpose of completing the McBride Nature Path at Town Center Park. This would be for the residents who don't know what that is out the Town Center area behind Town Center Park, also behind the ice arena. There is a partial path going in already, and this is a trust fund application to complete that rest of that path to go all the way around our pond. So with that, I'm going to open the public hearing on that grant application. The time is 6:49 p.m. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to that specific grant application? I don't see anyone present. Is there any remotely? No. With that, I will close that public hearing. Time is, again, 6:49 p.m. So that takes us to new business. This will be this is a request to adopt the resolution in support of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for the North Branch Greenway land acquisition.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a support for that?
Support.
Is there any discussion on this resolution?
If I may, I'd just like to reiterate that the idea of preserving land along the north branch of the Clinton River for permanent rural nature of the community, or at least conserve some aspect of, is an idea that the county initiated, and that they've secured funds from the federal government then they've offered those funds to us to apply for a state grant. The purpose of which is over the long term, as you explained, to eventually acquire the parcels along the north branch of the river. The county recognizes it will take probably decades to acquire them all, but for the purpose of preserving the rural nature of that river space in perpetuity. And again, absolutely nobody is required to sell their land. No land's being taken. It's simply an option for the landowner to decide what they want to do, if they want to sell that land, for permanent preservation.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Any other questions or discussion from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Is legal counsel available to
Yes.
answer questions?
Tim is with us remotely.
Well, through the chair, is it possible that eminent domain would ever be exercised in order to gain that property?
Well, certainly not while I'm sitting here.
I appreciate
I don't know that answer. Tim, are you available? We could ask Attorney Kelly, he's here as well, who has a municipal law background.
I'm sorry, what was the question though?
So, you're not intimately familiar with this, but we are beginning the process of preserving or possibly preserving river frontage through the township through grants. And the only purpose of that preservation would be to allow for a walking path of some kind for the entire stretch of the river. Trustee Kuzmano's question is, could eminent domain apply in that circumstance if it were ever to come to that?
Yes. You can use eminent domain to obtain safety path property.
Okay.
So, but to answer your question through the DNR, the grants that we're applying from the DNR, they set the criteria for how the grants can be used. And the criteria would be the landowner has to agree to sell the land. In addition, and they're reimbursed, they agree to be reimbursed by the DNR has a set of appraisers that would appraise the value of the property, and that would be the available price for the grant. So there's no provision within the program that we're applying to that provides for any sort of eminent domain of any sort. In theory, we could use eminent domain for anything, anywhere, at any time, as long as it's going for a public purpose. Any parcel of land could be subject to that for a public purpose, in theory.
That's my understanding as well, Mr. Chairman. Is there anyone who could address the concern of Mr. Cook regarding the potential that should all these things come to fruition, that his land would be subject to intrusion by people off the pathway?
I'm not specifically, I mean, I'd have to ask Mr. DeCook, if does the river run through your property, or does it butt up to the property? Runs through it. So my answer to you is, if you never sell it, nobody could ever trespass on your property.
Well, but if you invoke eminent domain, take it.
Well, that's,
Is there any provision to protect the integrity of the owner's property?
so broadly speaking, I know this isn't supposed to be a question and answer for the residents, but your point is fair. Broadly speaking, any municipality or government entity, if they choose to go after someone's property for something they claim as a public purpose, typically it's weighted in their favor. I can attest that that'll never happen as long as I'm here. I can't speak for future boards, but that's going to be true whether we go through with this or not. Some other future board may decide that that's a great idea and literally try and muscle everybody out of their property. Yeah, I think that would be terrible if that were to happen. Is that correct, Mr.
Yeah.
Kelly? Yeah. So
There is a process to eminent domain.
there is.
Right.
Yeah.
Two primary steps. The first is to establish the public need that can be disputed by the property owner, and then the second is the
Established
fair value.
Established value.
Right.
Yeah. But no, they're so.
We paid 40 grand an acre for a piece of ground just north of us.
So so this isn't public comment. I know I asked Mr. DeCook to weigh in, but this isn't public comment. So,
Mr. Chairman, through the chair to the council, my understanding is that they'd be entitled to a jury trial as to the valuation of the property.
That's true.
Accurate?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, one last comment
Sure.
or question. All we're doing is
Ma-
approving.
Trust, I'm sorry, guys. Can you speak into the microphone? They're set on a soft setting, so speak directly into them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to speak louder and be closer to the microphone. The point I'm making is all we're doing today is making application for purposes of accessing trust fund grants.
Correct.
Okay, so we're not making any decision
No.
about
And-
what's going to occur 20 years from now.
No, and in fact, this is just the beginning process. Every property owner that has contacted us and has expressed interest can still walk away. They can walk away at any point up until they've accepted a price that's been by an appraiser. So this is the very, very, very preliminary steps.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may, and you may not be able to answer, but would it be fair to say if the grant agreement that we're looking at to apply for indicates that it's at the property owner's discretion if they choose to participate or not? If there are enough of them that choose not to, the project could potentially fail. Is that
It's
fair
true.
to say?
It's very feasible, and I think it's probably likely that there will be parcels the township never acquires. I think that's just the reality.
Okay.
Just comment, it would seem that I understand the concerns of the gentleman who expressed concerns with trespassing on his property as a result of subdivisions that were put in. I think I worry that the concerns that any farmer would have with development and the influx of people contributes to that sort of potential trespassing and concern. I would hope that preserving the property for its rural nature as opposed to subdivision development would make it less likely there'd be a trespassing of folks, on property. I would hope the case that, that would be preserved for its natural state rather than developed, into a subdivision. But again, this is just a strictly voluntary. People don't have to sell anything if they don't want to. They can hold on to their land forever. You know, there's no impact on that in any way, shape, or form.
All right, thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Just, sorry, one housekeeping matter. Ed, is you able to, our attorney is texting us that he can hear us, but he can't speak through the remote. No. We're having a technical problem. No. Fortunately, we have backup today. Congratulations, you're pressed into service. Tim, if you can hear us, if you have something relevant to text, you can text me and I will relay it to the board.
And we could put it on phone if we have to.
I could put him on speaker if I have to.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, is there any more questions regarding this resolution? Okay. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to adopt the resolution in support of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for the North Branch Greenway land acquisition. Clerk Posey, will call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Treasurer Drollet,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Trustee Kuzimano,
Yes.
Trustee Lucido,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
and Supervisor Viviano.
Yes, that resolution is adopted. Moving on to the next item is item 11. This is a request to adopt a resolution in support of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application. This one is for the McBride Nature Path at Town Center Park, and approve the township matching grant amount of $225,800.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Is there any questions or discussion on that motion, on this resolution? Okay, hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to adopt this resolution. Clerk Posey, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Treasurer Drollet,
Yes.
Trustee Lucido,
Yes.
Trustee Kuzimano,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Viviano.
Yes, that resolution is adopted. This takes us to item 12. This is a request to approve the replacement of 3 fan motors and wheel assemblies at the rec center by Sci Energy Engineering in the amount of $28,739. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Johnson?
Right. Good evening, Board. So at the Recreation Center, there's 2 pool dehumidification units. They run in conjunction with each other, so when one turns off, one is on. So they kind of go back and forth. So these motors are running constantly to keep the pool area at a good temperature and climate. And so there's 1 motor on PDU 1, 2 on PDU 2 that need a replacement. So we're looking to do all these at the same time. Since 1 has failed, 2 are on the verge of failing. So it'll save us on crane rental to do them all at the same time. On top of that, I requested to amend the number to $28,739 because there was a Sal and I had a discussion about the rack and who should build it. We were going to do it ourselves, but there was a concern for liability, so we're going to have Sci Energy build it, just in case if we build it, somebody gets hurt on it, that we're not liable for anything. So we're going to have Sci Energy build that, and so they can pull these motors off easy because they're pretty high up and it's pretty dangerous to get these things overhead. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, can you, if you may or may not know this because you weren't here, but I feel like we purchased these brand new in 2018.
Yes, so in speaking with Sal, there was some, we purchased, I think it was like 628,000, I believe Sal's on if he wants to correct me, but there was a rather extensive purchase. These, we found out through talking with Energy, we had a meeting with them, that the new motors are not, they're basically maintenance free. So there's no way to maintain them. So once they go bad, you have to replace them. There's no grease fittings, nothing you can do to kind of keep them going. So we did have a meeting with them because Sal did have a concern that these should have lasted longer than what they anticipated. So we are investigating, looking into that. We're looking into the number of hours these things have run, trying to create a plan to make sure we bring it to the board for capital planning purposes and how frequently these need to get replaced now.
Because if my memory serves me right, the first set of, what do you call them, PDUs?
Yep.
They lasted 15, 20 years, and then they went completely, and they had to be replaced, which was at a very high expense. So we anticipated getting another 15 to 20 years before this type of maintenance would be required, so I find something off.
Yeah, we found out that those I might say pumps, and I mean motors if I say pumps, those motors were they had maintenance capabilities where the new ones do not. So it plays a factor in that's part of it. There's other parts and components to, I have to bring one of those guys in to be more technical on the aspect of it.
So if
There's a lot of
if I'm,
factors that
if I'm
go-
understanding your explanation, the the ones that were installed originally with the building, as you say, are designed to be maintained, which means
Yes.
they can be serviced and oil and whatever else
Yes.
is added to them. These were designed to run till they die, and that's that.
Correct.
And I guess we just weren't aware of that at the time.
That sounds like it's correct,
Okay.
yes.
So, question, how many more of them are there left to die?
There's four motors per unit, so a total of 8. So we're going to, once we get these replaced, we're gonna look and get an idea of what
5 more.
what they're looking like and when they're gonna get replaced, and we'll create a succession plan for these motors.
Okay?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just want to make sure, Kevin, that between yourself and Sal, when you're meeting with Synergy, that it's looked into that. I believe the agreement when we purchased the brand-new ones, the maintenance part of it was included in that to prevent this from happening. So,
Yeah, when we had the meeting, Sal was on top of all that. We asked for warranties. It's only a 3-year warranty on these, things like that. So Sal was asking all those questions and very clear on, he's very aware of what he purchased, and he had the same concerns you guys have. So once we get these repaired, we're gonna look into the remaining ones and see what's going on, and waiting for Synergy to give us information on the number of hours each pump is meant to run, so we can kind of quantify how often these run, so we can kind of get estimated lifespan, so we can kind of project out what this is going to look like. So we're doing our due diligence at this time, and we're just waiting to get some information so we can get some more answers.
yeah, I would just say I'm concerned with their lifespan because it seems to be way off.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have.
Just one point of clarification. Energy is not the company that installed them.
No, they are
No,
not.
this is our new HVAC
Yes,
vendor.
that is
right?
correct. That is correct.
I just didn't want anybody to think that we were,
So they're not.
Great
the-
point.
If I may, they're not the ones that honored what the other one said. This is an entirely different group.
entirely different company. I mean, the equipment, if it were still under warranty, they would be able to help us
Yes,
go to the manufacturer and, get those repairs done under warranty, but
yes,
as we've learned, apparently, they are no longer under warranty.
that's correct.
Well, I appreciate that you're looking into it further.
Always.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, one last question through the chair. What, is there any other options available, or is this pretty much?
Devoid of completely replacing the PDU again, there is no other option. These are the only motors that can go in this unit.
Okay, that's what, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, trustee Kuzma. Any other questions or discussion? Motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to approve the replacement of 3 fan motors and wheel assemblies at the rec center by Energy in the amount of $28,739. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. This will take us to item 13. This is a request to approve the sanitary sewer hydraulic modeling metering through September 30th, 2023 by Fishbeck, excuse me, in the amount of $79,650. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Support.
Mr. Johnson?
All right, so with this, as you guys are aware, you approved this study back early of 2022. This is a continuation of this hydraulic study. Last year was a very minimal rain event type of year where there's looking for certain rain events that did not occur. It's a rare year of like that. So we're looking to continue the study to gather the data. We're asking to go through October. If there's opportunity that we gather the information between March and June, we will end this study early. we're hoping in the spring we can get the data, but if not, we may have to extend it longer. But we're hoping to capture the data in the first few months here. But in this instance, because we haven't had a significant rain event last year, we need to extend this modeling so we can get the information we need to make sure we're properly sizing our sewer infrastructure, not only for existing residents, but future growth based on the zoning master plan. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any other questions or discussion from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so Kevin, is this a study that's going on currently as well, and we're extending it? Is there, the study's been ongoing and is currently going on?
The last approval you guys did, you allowed us to go till the end of September, so we pulled the meters. We don't go through the winter because snow and ice and stuff kind of plays a factor. And it doesn't make sense, the data doesn't correlate, so we pull it in the winter. We're gonna put the meters back in. With this approval, we'll put them in next week and get this process going all over again, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Nope. Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to approve the sanitary sewer hydraulic modeling metering through September 30th, 2023 by Fishbeck in the amount of $79,650. Motion passes unanimously. That'll take us on to the item 14. This is a request to approve the purchase of a Kohler portable generator from Total Energy Systems LLC for an amount not to exceed $118,232. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion or questions? I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson.
You're okay? I'm good with that too.
Right
So,
to discussion.
Just with this portable generator, this allows us to make sure that all the 8 sanitary sewer pump stations we have, make sure they have power in case of a power outage. Currently, 3 of our stations have on-site generators. We're working on 3 more currently, and we'll have 2 more down the line. But in the interim, this is always a great backup, just in case we lose power. We want to make sure those stations are running to avoid backups in people's basements, because if those don't run, that's where it ends up. So we want to make sure those things are functioning, on the top of our game. And again, we had 2 of them you guys approved earlier late last year. It's for us to sell a couple of older generators, portable generators that we no longer use. So we're going to be using some of those funds to kind of cover the cost of this as well. And those will be sold once we have access to the garage to our house on 23 Mile there, where they're currently working. And I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Now, is there any questions or discussion?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Any idea how much we could get for the ones that we're trying to sell? I mean, does it offset 10% of this, or?
The ones that we're selling were manufactured like in the 60s, so I'm assuming they're decent shape, but they haven't been run in probably 20 years. So we're hoping to get a decent something for them, but not sure how much.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you. Pay for the shipping, maybe.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to approve the purchase of the Kohler portable generators from Total Energy Systems LLC in an amount not to exceed $118,232. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 15 is a request to schedule a public hearing for the street lighting SAD resolution for Remar Farms site condos for April 12th, 2023.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Van Tifflin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, board members. Remar Farms is a brand-new subdivision. The ordinance requires that streetlights be installed within the development. This special assessment district would be the way the township collects money from the residents to pay DTE for the annual lamp charge. So we are recommending April 12th for the public hearing, and after this, we would then be able to pay DTE and get the process started for installing the streetlights. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Van Tifflin. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to approve the public hearing for the street lighting SAD for Remar Site Condos for April 12th, 2023. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Anne Marie, can you tweak the volume on the up in here? That's better. Thank you. This will take us to item 16. This is a request to authorize the supervisor to execute a letter of understanding with the ASME Local 1917 that replaces the existing Parks Supervisor position with Parks Supervisor 1 and Parks Supervisor 2 positions. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Support.
Mr. Tabaka.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. I'm requesting authorization to add the positions of Park Supervisor 1 and 2 to the Parks and Rec Department. These two positions will replace our current Park Supervisor position. Over the past year, the Parks and Rec Department staff has been making great progress on park improvements. As we continue to maintain our current parks, the Parks and Rec Department is prepping for the addition of Pitchford Park and the Lucido River Park. To preserve the exceptional amenities expected by residents and you guys, the board, the Parks and Rec Director has requested HR to negotiate a new leadership position into the Parks and Rec Department. With that being said, I'm recommending adding Park Supervisor 1 and 2 to the ASME CBA and remove the current Park Supervisor position. By breaking these into two roles, it will help better serve a more quantified approach to managing the increasing amount of property and capital improvements. The Park Supervisor 2 position will remain equivalent to the previous Park Supervisor position that's in the ASME right now. The Park Supervisor 1 position will serve to fill the gap between our maintenance lead position and our Park Supervisor 2 position, with comparable responsibilities as well as salary. This amendment to the CBA has been negotiated with the ASME Local 1917 and is reflected in the letter of understanding included in the board packet. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tabaka. So I'll add that to a little bit. It's the intention, if this were to pass tonight, that we will post the Park Supervisor 1, correct?
Correct.
Role, which is the first tier salary, being Park Supervisor 2 being the higher tiered, in accordance with the union agreements. We believe we have qualified internal candidates who may apply. We are not seeking to hire additional full-time staff at this time. We are seeking to create a leadership position within the existing staff structure.
So, just for clarification, we are amending the contract, is that correct, to create an additional, to split a position into two positions, but not filling two positions? We are
Correct.
We are looking to maintain this current number of full-time employees. We're just sort of changing the description, the job descriptions and compensation.
Yeah, you could consider it a career track. We're adding a tier in the career track of the parks maintenance positions.
Right,
Maintenance positions.
So any additional full-time employee beyond the number that we have now would have to be approved through our budgetary process and by the board.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional questions or discussion?
I had a question if I could.
Yep.
So in reading the, I guess the roles or how they're defined, would it be safe to say that like Park Supervisor 1 and then 2 would be Assistant Park Supervisor, or is it not really that type of relationship?
In the hierarchy, a park supervisor 1 would report to, if they were both filled by this board, they would report to Park Supervisor 2.
So the 2 is the higher one.
2 is the higher. Don't ask me why, but that's the way they do
Okay.
it. And it's
Yeah, I'm used to the other way,
Ask
but-
me, guys. You have to ask them. But yes, that would be the hierarchy. In the absence of a Park Supervisor 2, that person would report directly to the Parks Director.
Okay.
So just to be clear, we're going to be recruiting for Park Supervisor 1. That would be the lower of the two.
So we wouldn't even have a two.
That's correct.
Correct.
There's no park supervisor currently. There's no intention to post for park supervisor 2.
So we're filling the assistant before we fill. And that's the way
one
I'm
way of,
seeing it in a
that's,
hierarchy.
yes.
Any reason for that? Not just to have a supervisor first, and then if an assistant is needed?
So
fill the assistant?
so the current structure, at least specifically within the Parks Department and their maintenance team, we have park maintenance, correct me if I get this wrong, Jeff. Park maintenance,
We have a lead maintenance.
how many?
Leads?
We only have one lead, right?
One lead, correct.
So currently we have a park maintenance lead. We have park maintenance workers, and then we have park maintenance lead, who's a step up. Park maintenance lead has been in effect, doing everything that we would expect a park supervisor to do, or one to be doing. That's why we are intending this as a promotional track, not as a new position.
Gotcha.
So our maintenance lead is in another union. They're in the MAPE union. If we interview internally and someone gets in internally, they'll be moving from MAPE into Ask Me. So it's basically a salary position.
Gotcha.
So, and the whole reason why the thing was split in the first place is we have been going up to this point with maintenance staff. We have not had any supervisory position. We are, in my opinion, just getting to the point where we need additional supervisory. I don't think it quite merited going up to a full, under the old scale, full supervisor role. So I had asked me to allow us to create this, call it an interim, a stepping stone position, so that we could bring somebody up as, properties increase, assets increase. If we were, going gangbusters on our parks, and a couple of years from now, we may look then to do something with the higher position. But again, that's all a board decision. This is just creating that track.
And they wouldn't be considered a department head? as
No,
the
not
other-
technically. It's still, at this point, it's still the director.
Got it. Thank you.
So just to your point, we have other supervisory roles within the Parks Department. We have the pool supervisor, we have facilities, is it manager or supervisor? Manager, right? Facilities manager, pool manager or supervisor?
I believe it's a manager.
So all of them have specific supervisory responsibilities within the Parks Department, but we only have one department head, and this is Sal DeCaro.
Got it.
I mean, I'm assuming down the road, when these parks are up and running, we'll relook at that supervisor 2 position. But we're not quite there yet.
Got it. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Offer a summary to see if I'm correct. Over the last 2 years, we've had 3, I think, significant changes to where our Parks Department run that I can remember. One is that we divided the Buildings and Grounds team into partly Public Works and then assigned part of them to Parks and Recreation.
That is correct.
So that became a new management responsibility within Parks and Recreation.
Correct.
The second change that the board or the township has done is added the additional parks. We have Pittsford Park now under construction as we speak today. Lucido Park, River Park will be coming online soon. So we've added additional parks that need to be maintained and administered to. And third, we invested $1 million in park upgrades that needed to be overseen at Corners Park and Waldenburg Park. So there's been a substantial increase in management of those increases in scope of what's happening at the parks. And the intent, I believe, of this issue is to promote an individual to a position closer to what the responsibilities have grown into being, with a subsequent increase in compensation because of those changes.
That was all accurately stated, yes.
Thank you.
And just to add on, so before we split, we had 5 maintenance people. 3 went to Parks and Rec and 2 went to DPW. And we've not added to that department, either one.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Are there any other questions or discussion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one comment. the old adage, if you create a position, you're gonna fill a position. I received an email, as I think other board members did, from Kathy Western on March the 3rd. And she made a point, which I'll read. The sole rationale the HR director offers for this request is in the first sentence. It says, quote, "in preparation for," close quote, "some unnamed future work." I feel silly pointing out that there's no description of the current workload and the anticipated future workload, not to mention that the parks named are many months away from actually existing. My philosophy would be that as the workload increases, that you bring on the new position and fill the positions, not do so in anticipation. I will give significant deference to Treasurer Drolette's that there's gonna be a substantial increase in what is being done, but I don't know how much maintenance and administration is gonna be necessary for the Lucido Park. For that reason, I'll be voting no respectfully on this request. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, trustee Kuzma. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by trustee Nevers, to authorize the supervisor to execute a letter of understanding with the ASME Local 917 that replaces the existing Parks Supervisor position with the Parks Supervisor 1 and Parks Supervisor 2 positions. Members, please vote. Motion passes 5-1 with trustee Kuzmano voting no. This takes us to item 17. This is a request to approve an extension of time for the preliminary plan for Rockwood Park. This is under permanent parcel ID 0828376002 for Rockwood Park site condominiums. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. As you mentioned, this is for Rockwood Park, a single-family subdivision development north of 21 Mile, right next to Waldenburg Park. This is a project that's been ongoing for a number of years. They've had a number of issues with their engineering, as well as they were kind of sidelined during the pandemic as well. But they are nearing conclusion with their engineering, but their site plan is about to expire, so they're seeking that extension this evening. I did go to Planning Commission, and it was recommended unanimously for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Box. Question that was brought up today, is there a point at which extensions are becoming too many to approve?
Our ordinance doesn't limit how many times something can be extended, but obviously you have the purview to vote yes or no, so.
And how many years do we believe this project?
This was originally approved in 2018.
So we're in 5 years, 5 years in.
Oh, yeah, COVID.
Is it possible that
Lasted
it's
longer
gonna
than
get to
those
a point where
pumps.
standards have changed and they're gonna have to start all over again? Or at least
Well,
revise some
if
things?
it was denied this evening, it would expire, and then they'd have to come back in for site plan. I'm not sure at this point how much has really changed, and they would probably just be right back here with an approved site plan from Planning Commission.
Okay.
But their biggest hurdle has been engineering. As we all know, Waldenburg Park has issues with flooding, so they've been dealing with that. I don't know, Jim, if you want to weigh in where they're at on their engineering, but I know they're very close.
They essentially have all the permits that are necessary. We have asked them to get in touch with the subdivision next door. There are some lots that would be left over in that subdivision that would basically be isolated from the river. And the floodway or floodplain would get through to those lots through the storm sewer system. There'd be a retaining wall that these existing residents would look at out their back door. We've asked them to try and contact those landowners and see if there is some mutual benefit for some filling to happen on those existing lots to raise them up and out of the floodplain so that more of their backyards are usable. They have sent out mailers, a couple of them in February, and are waiting to hear for sure whether these residents are interested in participating or not. So there are 4 of them. The engineering has talked to at least 3 of them so far. They have a lot of questions. So right now, we're giving them time to mull this over and hopefully work with the developer, at least give the developer an answer as to which way they want to proceed. So, but everything else is pretty much ready to go. They may have to make it, if these residents don't want to participate, they may have to make a couple of tweaks to their engineering plans to get them approved.
Thank you, Mr. Van Tiffel. Any further questions or discussion from the board?
I just had a question.
Yes.
Do we feel maybe like the COVID shutdown delayed them at all since 2018, or is it really just the engineering?
They did get sidetracked because of the COVID shutdown, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would suspect that since 2018, COVID affected a lot of folks that didn't require 17 extensions. That's it.
Okay. Thanks for that eloquent addition to our conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad I contributed.
If there's no more questions or discussion, I have a motion by trustee Lucido, supported by trustee Kuzmano, to approve the extension of time for the preliminary plan at Rockwood Park, permanent parcel ID 0828376002 for Rockwood Park site condominiums. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is another request for approval of an extension of time. This one is for the preliminary plan at Stone Ridge Condominiums, permanent parcel IDs 0825427009 and 0825427010. This is on behalf of Concord Associates.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Mr. Box?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. This also is an extension that they're seeking this evening for a single-family subdivision. This one is a little bit larger. It's 103 units. This is just north of 21 Mile near Fairchild. They did get their approval last year in 2022. They're just now, I believe, getting into their engineering, but they were delayed a little bit as we had to work out some things with the fire department. There was some ordinances that had to be looked at for remoteness that delayed this project. It did go to Planning Commission and was recommended for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Box. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Dillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to approve the time extension for Stone Ridge Condominiums on behalf of Concord and Associates. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. This takes us to item 19, is a request for additional user licenses for our Laserfiche document imaging system in the amount of $14,000. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Pierce?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, board members. To date, the township has utilized all of its full user capabilities for our electronic records management system, and we've been at that capacity for going on about 2 years now. And unfortunately, we had some server issues which didn't allow us to be able to add the capacity back at that time when we needed them, so we've been shuffling people who aren't using it as much, and in between, it's really kind of been a shell game. Fortunately, not that I thought I'd ever say that, with the Mr. Johnson coming on with the DPW, we've been able, he has a plan for some mobile use in limited license for his utility workers in the field. We were able to cobble that together with our vendor and come up with a price which will allow us to bring on 10 full users, 15 participant users, some which will be used by DPW and a few will be used for us for people like the census that comes in and just looks at our certain files and information. And as such, under $14,000, we'll be able to increase our capability and enhance use both in water and sewer for census and internally.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce.
Pardon me?
This is budgeted?
I'm sorry, yes, this is a budgeted item.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to approve the additional user licenses for the Laserfiche document imaging system in the amount of $14,000. Members, please vote.
It's like dramatic pause.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
This brings us to item 20. This is a request to authorize the treasurer to negotiate and execute a contract with the Chippewa Valley, Utica Community, New Haven, and L'Anse Creuse school districts for collecting the 2023 school property taxes pursuant to the terms of Section 161 of Public Act 333 of 1982. Whew. Thanks for that. Members, I'm sorry, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Treasurer Gillette?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of this body may remember that several months ago, we actually approved a rate for collecting the property taxes for the school districts. The township has been collecting taxes for the school districts for several decades now. Most communities do. Subsequent to us passing that, I had multiple conversations with members of the school community, Chippewa Valley Finance Department, Intermediate School District, who were concerned that there's coming increasingly less consistency between the different municipalities and how they were setting the rates for tax collection. We then organized a meeting with some of our neighboring communities in Chesterfield Township, Shelby Township, Clinton Township, and others with members of the school community, the ISD, and representatives of the school districts and college. We had probably maybe 3 or 4 meetings of that nature with members of the school community and the different treasurers, and we sort of came to a common agreement on how to assess those costs, how to deal with interest associated with the collections and various fees associated with it is more common. So what I'm asking the board to do is sort of supersede the previous agreement that we had approved of for this new, I guess you could say, consensus agreement with a number of other communities and school community.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Is there any discussion or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question to the treasurer. Does this include any aspect of this action implicate Macomb Community College?
The contracts are with the 4 school districts, Utica Community Schools, Chippewa Valley, New Haven, L'Anse Creuse. However, those school districts then have separate agreements with Macomb Community College for how they should pay for their part of the fee. So we, as the township, would not have a specific agreement with the college, but the school districts do. So they then, assess the fee that we pay, part of that to the community college. There's a reference in the proposed contract that recognizes that they will be working with the college, that they have the responsibility, the school districts, to work with the college and the ISD as to how they would appropriate how they would divide up their costs that they're being charged.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Trustee Kuzmano, any other questions? That being said, there's a motion by Trustee Lucido, supported by Clerk Posey, to approve or authorize the treasurer to negotiate and execute a contract with Chippewa Valley, Utica Community, New Haven, and L'Anse Creuse school districts for the collection of the 2023 school property taxes pursuant to the terms of Section 1611 of Public Act 333 of 1982. Members, please vote. Yes, I like to read the whole thing back. Motion passes unanimously. This takes us to our second public comment. This would be for non-agenda items. If anyone who wishes to speak, please approach the microphone. I don't see anybody present. Ed, is there anybody remotely? If we can even get them through. Okay. I'm going to close public comment, and we're going to move on to board comments. Trustee Lucido.
Just very quickly, congratulating De La Salle once again. Proud to be a pilot today. Glad to see we had such a great turnout with the students of Macomb Township, and hopefully tonight starts their basketball run, because I think their first playoff game was tonight, so.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nevers.
Yes. I too would like to congratulate the team. Huge show up tonight. That was great. And I can see from the height of those players why they've won 2 consecutive years. Pretty amazing. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Nevers. Trustee Kuzmano.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate the De La Salle football team. That's a significant, dominant victory in the finals, and it should be, I'm proud to recognize that accomplishment. No other comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Kuzmano. Treasurer Gillette.
2 years in a row is truly unexpected and amazing, so there must be a talented group of kids. That's my only comment.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Clerk Posey.
And I too would like to congratulate them once again. All their efforts and commitments that goes into playing a high school sport should not go unrecognized. So congratulations to them. Also, just a reminder that there will be a special election for the Utica Community School District residents on May 2nd, 2023. If you are on our permanent absent voter list, you should receive your application to vote by mail by the end of this week. If you did not receive that and wish to vote by mail, please contact the office and we can accommodate you. Also, you can visit mtvoter.org for any of your election questions, concerns, or applications. And we will be providing information in the course of the election till May 2nd.
Thank you, Clerk Posey. I'm also going to weigh in on the De La Salle championship. Congratulations to the boys. That was fantastic to watch. 2 years in a row is pretty unusual and pretty remarkable. However, I would be remiss if I didn't also congratulate one of our teams that's a little closer to home. I think it's worth noting that the Dakota High School 2022 football team made it all the way to the quarterfinals, and they finished with a regular season record of 11-1, featuring one Bo Williams, who we all know, or well, most of us know. I'm sorry, I said Williams. Bo Wheeler. I don't know why I said Williams. That's going to kill me.
Everyone's dying.
And we have another champion in the township. Anybody who may have caught the newspaper the other day, Dakota High School's Caleb Weand won the state wrestling championship, and I believe it was in the 120 pound weight class.
120, yep.
And has committed to Michigan State, much like our very own Mr. Box, who was also a wrestler at Michigan State. So, maybe you can give him some tips. So, and with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to move into closed session to discuss an attorney-client opinion pursuant to MCL 15.2681C and MCL 15.2681H.
So move.
Support.
Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to move into closed session. Clerk Posey will call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Treasurer Drollet?
Yes.
Trustee Lucido?
Yes.
Trustee Cusimano?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Viviano?
Yes. That motion passes. We are entering closed session, and the time is 7:41 p.m. The time is 8:46 PM. Are there any motions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Treasurer Gillette.
I'd like to make a motion. As a result of the March 1st, 2023 arbitration decision, I move to approve the layoff of 2 firefighters and direct the, as provided in the IAFF collective bargaining agreement, and direct the HR department to take the necessary steps to complete the same.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Will this action result in a decrease in the budgeted firefighter positions in the fire department?
No, it will not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Kuzmano. Do I need to restate the motion? Motion as stated by Treasurer Gillette. Members, please vote.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
So they remain.
Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Failed.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry.
That motion failed. There was a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido to adjourn the meeting. Members, please vote.
My voting thing is gone. Oh, here it is.
Motion passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned.